Ladies and gentlemen, the release date for Europa Universalis 5 version 1.2 and the accompanying Fate of the Phoenix DLC or immersion pack, whatever you want to call it, has finally been revealed to us, and I am very excited to see that it's coming a lot sooner than a lot of us expected. What you're seeing on the screen behind me right now is the release trailer for EU5 1.2 and Fate of the Phoenix that literally just dropped not even 2 minutes ago. So let's go ahead and jump into this video, react to the reveal trailer, and see the actual release date that we'll see in the trailer. And then of course we're gonna get into the latest dev diary regarding EU5 version 1.2 and the Fate of the Phoenix DLC, which I know we are all very excited to get our hands on. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check out the reveal trailer and learn about the date. All right, let's go ahead and watch the reveal trailer, ladies and gentlemen, and then we'll get into the dev diary. Get your guesses in the comments below right now before we watch this so we can see when, who guessed the closest, and whoever guessed the closest, good job. I'm gonna like your comment, but let's go ahead and watch this and hear it too.
Peggy 12.
I love the vibes already.
How many faces gather before you? Bureaucrats,
Who's hey?
advisors, generals, waiting for your command.
Hell yeah, a lot.
Whispers say that Rome's legacy flickers like a dying flame. Is this true?
It is true. Bizaboos rise up. Bizaboos rise up.
Because within these walls, you can feel the cinders still warm, still alive.
Art is insane. Art
So
is
let
actually
history
insane.
remember.
Let's go.
The Roman Empire reawakens.
The Roman Empire, yes, May 6th, ladies and gentlemen, that is when Europa Universalis 5 and the Fate of the Phoenix immersion pack and the much awaited 1.2 patch will be dropping. Go ahead and watch this trailer on Paradox's YouTube channel, or EU5's YouTube channel too, so it doesn't seem like I'm leeching views or whatever. Leave those guys a like. But yeah, there we go. That is the actual release date, man. What I have to comment on that is obviously, what Paradox said right when the Tinto talks about these started dropping. It was like, oh, it's gonna be April, May, or June, and based on the way things were going, honestly I thought it was gonna be June, or at least later in May. But hey, May 6th, that's literally like 2 weeks away, so the earlier we can get our hands on this, the better, and I know we're all super excited. So there we go, May the 6th, ladies and gentlemen. And now that we know about this, let's continue going into the dev diaries, which I have been covering for the past couple of weeks, and see what the latest news is, huh? All right, here we are on the Paradox forums with Tinto Talks 105, ladies and gentlemen, from yesterday, the 22nd of April, 2026, and this is a really massive dev diary, so we're not gonna go into exactly everything like we've been going into so far, otherwise this video is gonna be like an hour long, and I'm not sure you guys want to hear me yap for an hour. Obviously, if you want to get into literally everything by yourself, you can always go and look at this for yourself, but without further ado, let's jump right in, and we'll go over what I think are some of the most important things regarding this dev diary. Obviously we'll go over everything, but not everything about everything, if you know what I mean. Okay, the first thing we want to get into right here, folks, is proximity and topography, and a change that makes just so much sense, not just from a game perspective, but also from a real life perspective. You might be seeing it already on the screenshot right here, but let's get into it. One change we're pleased to finally have in is that a country's capital terrain now passively reduces its proximity penalty through the same topography. If your capital sits in the mountains, your whole administration is adapted to mountains. So moving men and goods through mountainous terrain costs you 20% less proximity than it would a coastal lowland power. The same applies to hills, plateaus, flatlands, and wetlands. Wherever your state is located, it is more comfortable operating there. That reflects something we felt was missing. Geography should make a nation used to its own landscape, not just be a static drag on everyone equally. And it totally makes sense when you think about it, right? Let's say, you're playing in Switzerland, right? These people and, these countries that have existed there for so long, they're gonna know what it's like to operate in this terrain, right? It wouldn't make sense, to move capital to Zurich or whatever, right? It should feel comfortable for these countries that are actually mountainous and certain other terrain types, of course, for them to not have as big of a, impact on proximity as someone who, let's say, goes and conquers them, right? For example, you're playing someone mega flat, I don't know, Netherlands, you go and conquer Switzerland, you're not going to know how to manage that stuff, right? So from a real life perspective, it makes sense too. And even more importantly, we've gone through the advanced tree and giving terrain-specific proximity reductions to a new slate of countries and cultures whose historical identities are inseparable from a particular landscape. Scotland, Savoy, Albania, the Swiss, and Nepal now all reduce mountain and hill proximity costs through dedicated advances. So yeah, makes total sense. Additionally, even more importantly, look at this, the Inca got a new advanced vertical economy representing the astonishing logistical feat of governing the full length of the Andes across coastal valleys, mountain slopes, and high plateaus simultaneously. Now, if we could only fix Cusco and food and Arctic climate, then Inca would actually be playable. And moving on from that, Persia gets the Persian Plateau, and Morocco joins them with advances rooted in Atlas mountain expertise. So yeah, these were the remaining major mountain nations that didn't yet receive any such representation. Countries like Ethiopia, Austria, Tibet, and Armenia already had terrain advances, but we rebalanced our values at the same time for consistency. Yeah, and it makes sense, man. As soon as that whole thing for Austria was introduced, literally just after EU5 dropped, I was like, oh, totally makes sense, but that should definitely be present for other countries, and I'm glad that other countries finally actually got it. So yeah, look at this, Highland Tradition Advance, minus 33% through mountains and hills. Yeah, very nice. This is probably for Scotland, right? Highlands? Yeah, the clans of the Highlands. Yeah, this is for Scotland. Pretty powerful, actually. Negative 33% is pretty powerful, but I like it. I think it should be like that. Now moving on to cabinet changes, lots of bug fixing here and making things, work like they're supposed to, but getting into the main new things right here, characters can now gain a trait over the course of their service that reflects the nature of the country they're working for, creating a more organic and narrative-driven sense of how individuals are shaped by the institutions and culture around them. When you hire an advisor, they will get a trait already, but anyone else you appoint is an empty canvas. That makes characters feel more grounded in the world rather than interchangeable stat blocks, since their history of service leaves a visible imprint on who they've become. So this guy's honest, he's got a state satisfaction equilibrium plus 1%, it makes sense how it works. And also something very nice that's also already a part of a mod I use, I think it's Glorp UI. It enables you to shrink this. As you can see, we've added in so that you can make a condensed version of the UI for cabinets as well, with a quick toggle between the versions. So yeah, this is the button right here, the little square. It basically expands this, and you just see a picture of the guy. Literally not necessary when you have 5 of these guys. Sure, it's not a problem if you got like 2 or 3 advisors, but as the game progresses, I literally don't care about looking at the guy's character portrait. I just want to know what he's doing, and what actually uses the thing he's doing, and his stat. And then I just want to, swap him out and stuff like that. So all of the important information is right here. No need for us to look at the picture. And then the rest of these things right here, which this text says, not to get into it too much, like I said at the start of the video, it's basically fixes to various things like boost colonial charter, doesn't use the same thing twice, promote culture is limited to single use per location, basically you can't stack it anymore, and yeah, things are just getting fixed up a little bit, which is nice. But that's pretty much like I said, things working like they're kind of supposed to regarding the cabinet. Now, moving on to a really important change, honestly, that I think is going to be quite useful, but also, with some major trade-offs right here, and something I honestly didn't expect. But once again, when you think about it, you could be like, this makes sense that it would be, and it's kind of similar to maybe seize land from EU4, but not really. You'll take a look at it. So one of the most powerful tools available to determine monarch is the perform reduction, a deliberate act of dismantling an estate's physical infrastructure to curtail its growing influence. When an estate has accumulated enough buildings to become a dominant force in your realm, you can order the destruction of their properties, stripping away the economic base that fuels their power. So, it's like you could lose some things here too, right? For example, the nobles, they do build a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously, this probably refers to only estate buildings, but yeah, it's interesting. The action scales with the size of your realm, demolishing anywhere from 2 to 20 buildings, depending on how many locations you rule. Though cathedrals are always spared, even a king must tread carefully around the church, of course. The estate will not suffer this quietly. The blow to their satisfaction is severe, equivalent to half their total contentment. So this is a tool of last resort rather rather than routine governance. So it's probably not going to be like something we do all the time, right? The crown's own power level matters here too. A strong monarch can soften the political fallout through sheer authority, while a weak ruler will find the estates far more embittered by the same actions. So it depends on, you know, crown power, obviously. There's also a direct financial sting. You forfeit wealth equal to twice the estate's tax base, as destroying productive property costs the whole country, not just the estate. We deliberately excluded this action from AI and automation logic. Interesting. It is drastic, irreversible choice that we want players to make consciously, weighing long-term power balance against immediate economic and diplomatic change. So yeah, crazy change right here. Probably not going to be something we use too often. I'm not sure, honestly, on preventing the AI from doing this, but as you can see, man, it completely obliterates estate satisfaction, you know, in this, even if you just destroy like a 5 or 6 or 7, whatever this is. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. We're gonna have to try it out and see how it actually works. Now, moving on to some very nice changes regarding revolts that I'm sure many of you are gonna like. Revolts and civil wars have been one of our biggest focus around this cycle, and the system has seen meaningful changes across gameplay, AI performance, and presentation. The headlining gameplay change is that civil war subjects now automatically call their overlord into the conflict, a long overdue fix that makes the vassal relationship feel meaningful during the most turbulent moments. Extending that further, overlords can now also intervene in any of their subjects' wars, not just civil wars, giving great powers a real lever to pull when their sphere of influence is destabilized. Excellent changes. On the flip side, disloyal subjects now join civil wars on the attacking side. So this is cool as well. I honestly like this quite a lot. So keeping your subjects happy is more strategically important than ever. Estate rebel spending has been rescaled to match the fraction of pops actually participating in rebellion, which prevents estates from hemorrhaging money from uprisings that barely got off the ground. And we've also fixed an issue where rebellions would destroy noble buildings like local governors, which is also very nice. And here also a very cool change on the suppression side. We've added a rebel suppression priority toggle so players can explicitly mark specific rebellions for preferential attention from their armies. So you can just tick this off right here. Armies will go and stand, suppress rebels. It's very nice, man. But also look at this. When multiple revolts are brewing in the same area, they can now coalesce into a single larger uprising rather than popping independently, making a badly managed region genuinely dangerous rather than a string of trivial skirmishes. This is a very good change. It makes sense, like, you know, all of these guys, you know, I don't know, you conquer Morocco, right, as Castile, and you got like a couple of different cultures right there, and they all hate you and stuff like that while you're integrating, and they're all like, hey, instead of you popping up there, I pop up here, that guy pops up there. Why don't we all pop up at the same time? And, you know, maybe we'll have a bigger chance of success, right? Relating a lot of these things to real life. So very cool changes over to revolts. Now, moving on to some very interesting changes about diplomatic capacity that I think we're all going to like. And, you know, judging off of this, I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy as well. Diplomatic capacity has been reworked from a primarily slider-based system into more of a direct resource mechanic, removing the ambiguity that came from players having to manually allocate attention across multiple diplomatic fronts. Under the new system, alliances and leagues carry explicit capacity costs that are always active, making it immediately clear how much of your diplomatic bandwidth any given relationship is consuming. This gives players a much cleaner mental model, as you can see at a glance whether you're overextended diplomatically without needing to reason about where the slider sits. So you can see at a maintenance of 30% on diplomatic spending, these are all of the things that impacts, right? You can imagine the impact on, you know, on 100% on diplomaxing, as you normally do perhaps when annexing subjects, right? You get minus 0.1 monthly complacency, speed of annexation plus, what would that be? Plus 0.6? I don't know. So you can see all of this. Additionally, this change also makes the cost of large alliance blocks and league memberships more legible from a balance perspective, since the engine can now directly tune those costs rather than relying on emergent behavior from slider positioning. So taking a look at this right here, man, you know, the cost of an alliance with Castile, as whoever we're playing right here, is 3 point something, right? I guess it's France, right? Since we have all of these guys as vassals, they don't take up that much, and you know, this is how much it costs depending on economic base, great power, level of trust decreases that cost. So yeah, it's a lot more clear, it's a lot more simple, and honestly a great change that I like quite a lot. Now, moving on to something very cool, which I hope will be tuned up even more, AI disposition. One thing that has long been missing from the diplomatic experience is a clear read on how your neighbors actually feel about you at any given moment. And this was kind of sort of present, not in this sense, of course, but in EU4 as well. Not just their opinion number, but their intent. We've added an AI disposition system that gives every AI country a continuously updated assessment of how it views you specifically, expressed as one of 6 states: indifferent, wary, rivals, covets, planning war, alarmed. These are not the static labels, they are recalculated monthly based on the real inputs driving the AI's attitude, how your military and economic power compares to theirs, whether they hold claims or a CB against you, whether there is active antagonism or a formal rivalry between you guys, and it's shown in the country's foreign lateral view as an icon and a label. So covets your land. That's what, you know, Castile wants from a certain nation, Aragon, for example, in this situation. And we've also added a dedicated AI disposition map mode that colors each country by how it views you. So you can sweep across the map and immediately see who is indifferent, who's wary, and who's currently planning a war against you. If you want to dig deeper, building a spy network above 25 in a country will reveal their top strategic objectives in the lateral view, showing you whether they're specifically targeting you for expansion or subjugation. The goal is to replace the vague uncertainty of raw opinion numbers with something legible and actionable. You should be able to look at your neighbors and have a genuine read on their current intent, so your diplomatic decisions can be properly informed rather than reactive. We've also improved the AI logic for Conquer Desire. As you can see here, Castile kind of wants to unify and form Spain. Yeah, and this is perfect, man. So Conquer Desire was already in the game. Obviously, once again, this was something that was already in EU4, and, you know, depending on where a country was and the culture and the country rank, it depended on, you know, that. The country judged based off of that what it wants to conquer. So it was very tame for most countries. Like, let's say you click on the Ottomans and they literally only want some border locations that are Turkish right next to them or whatever. Whereas, you know, this is a lot more realistic, man. Obviously, as we can see, Castile, not really that much desire to go for Portugal. A little bit over here, but not that bad, because now they're kind of like historical friends. But major conquest desire for Navarra, these bits of Aragon, lots of Aragonese stuff right here, and a little bit in Granada. I feel like I should be tuned way up in Granada, but that's just because of how countries calculate, you know, other cultures and other religions and stuff like that. So even though Castile wants this a lot, I feel like it should want it even more than Aragon, you know, to finish the Reconquista or whatever. It doesn't want it as much as Navarra and Aragon because it's a completely different culture group and a completely different religion. But either way, it is a lot more spread and a lot more powerful, so to say, than for example it was earlier. But I feel like it should be tuned up even double than this. But either way, I'm glad all of these changes are brought in, especially this. And moving on to another thing that was also in EU4, AI personality, or ruler personality as we used to call it in EU4. So this is same but different, but still the same. So we've added an AI personality system that gives every AI country a fundamental character, shaping how it approaches statecraft through the game. There are 7 personalities: aggressive, expansionist, defensive, cautious, opportunistic, isolationist, and friendly. And each one adjusts a broad set of behavioral modifiers organized into 3 layers: how willing the AI is to initiate wars, how much hardship it will endure to pursue its goals, and what it prioritizes when making decisions. An aggressive country will declare war more readily, so I guess that's France at the start of the game. Tolerate high war exhaustion and stability hits, demand harsher peace terms, and lean heavily into militarist policies. A cautious country needs overwhelming odds before it commits, values stability above almost anything else, and will accept more reasonable peace offers. Friendly invests in diplomacy, makes generous deals, and tries to accumulate reliable partners rather than conquer territory. So I guess Ottomans are hard-coded friendly. These modifiers stack additively on top of whatever the country's ruler traits and societal values are already contributing. So personality is a baseline character, not a straitjacket. An isolationist country can still go to war. It just needs a much better reason than an aggressive one would. So these guys wouldn't know CB, you know. By default, countries are assigned historically appropriate personalities based on their documented ambitions and political character, which I feel like it should be like that. So familiar powers should feel roughly as you would expect them to. I just hope it works like it's supposed to. If you want less predictable neighbors, there are 3 game rules to change this. Random assigns personalities at game start. Random per age rules them at the start of every age as the political map shifts, and random per ruler rerolls each country's personality on succession. None of these disable achievements. And you can, you know, see what kind of personalities these guys have. So random per ruler is kind of like it used to be in EU4, man. For example, you know, it wasn't as much impactful on how countries behave, but you know, sometimes you could judge them based off of that and certain careful, you know, diplomatic choices you had to make based on, basically, is this guy a militarist, is he an administrator, is he a diplomat, you know, along with the ruler traits like babbling buffoon or corrupt or whatever, right? So yeah, I feel like this is an excellent addition, man. Sort of in combination with this right here, I hope it'll make countries do more what they're actually supposed to do. A little bit here about war and peace. Basically, the gist of this is the most important things we need to, you know, extract from this bit right here is that now there's unconditional surrender, which is very cool. I think it should help end wars faster, so that's an awesome bonus. And another thing we should take a look at right here, let me just find it. Yeah, coalition wars now use superiority instead of take capital, which I judge all of the coalition wars based off of France versus the HRE. I don't know how much change this will make. I think this will make France win a lot more, and then, you know, additionally, man, yeah, subjects can now fight for and win their independence through war, meaning their great power's reach is no longer automatically guaranteed simply by keeping a buffer layer of intermediate subjects. So yeah. Oh, also, we got let me just try and find it right here. I can't see it, but you know, I've already read through it. Another thing is annex all revolters, which means you don't gotta piece out these guys one by one, which is very nice. So yeah, that's some minor changes about War and Peace. Obviously, you can read through it, all of this in depth, but you know, I think the three things that I just said are the most important things we want to extract from this. Oh no, wait, I forgot. Look at this. Alongside this, we've added the ability for countries to rejoin wars they previously left. This could get very tricky, right? I wanted to say this. And as long as no truce exists with the relevant parties, this opens interesting comeback scenarios and makes the decision to exit a war feel more weighty, since you're not necessarily locked out forever. So I like this, man. It's like, you know, you're fighting a war. Let's say you're Italy, all of Italy, right? And you're fighting France, who's unified France, that's allied Spain. So you're solo versus two big guys. I'm giving a, you know, a rough example right here. You knock out Spain somehow by some sort of southern boat invasion or whatever, but then you get bogged down in this war versus France, man. Sieges in the Alps, blah, blah, blah. You just can't push through. And you're like, all right, do I continue this? Can I push through? Or do I have to bide my time? Is Spain gonna come back in like 5 years or whatever if this war is still going on in 5 years? So a very interesting change right there. We'll see how much we actually get to experience it in game, but I do like that quite a lot. Another addition from EU4, kinda, the addition of papal authority, which has been included in the entire Catholic Church organization rather than individual countries. Basically, the meter starts at 60, you know, and it could go up and down based on different, you know, things that happen, and this reflects basically on all Catholic members and stuff like that. So an interesting addition. Will it be super relevant? I mean, you know, you can ignore, you know, papal bulls and stuff like that. I don't even know if you want to do that, but yeah, an interesting addition. Not a lot that I have to say about this, but hey, any change is welcome. So yeah, I guess we'll maybe do a little papal test run or something like that and see how much you can influence this and stuff like that, and how good it actually gets. Trust additionally has also been reworked to bring it closer to the EU4 model, and I do think it worked pretty well in EU4, man. Above 50, they like you. Below 50, they don't like you that much. Below 40, they can even break alliances with you and stuff like that. Getting to 100 trust, you know, you always drag them in, they always drag you in. So trust now functions as a continuous value that directly influences acceptance across all diplomatic actions. When trust is above 50, it acts as a positive modifier to acceptance. When it's below 50, it becomes a drag, making even routine diplomatic requests harder to push through. So, you know, asking for money and stuff like that. This creates a natural and intuitive gradient. A country that trusts you will be easier to negotiate with across the board, while a country that has a reason to distrust you will resist your overtures even when the underlying deal would otherwise be attractive. Rather than sitting at whatever level events or actions pushed it to, trust now recovers slowly towards a baseline of 50. Interesting. So even, yeah, it's not static like it was in EU4, right? You can't just push it up to 100 and it stays there unless you betray them in some way or stuff like that. It always drifts towards 50. So, yeah, much more like EU4, but EU5e in the fact that it drifts, which honestly, I like quite a lot. Now, a minor thing about territory connectivity for subjects, which I feel is good in the fact that, basically, okay, let me just read through it and I'll give you my opinion. Territory connectivity measures how well your subject's lands are physically linked to your heartland on a scale of 0 to 100. A subject that shares a well-controlled land border scores the highest, while one reachable only by sea earns a reduced score, and a fully isolated subject scores nothing at all. Higher connectivity translates directly into greater subject loyalty. A well-connected vassal feels governed, a distant one feels abandoned. Rebel-held provinces along the border are not just a local problem. They degrade the connection score for any territory that relies on the choke point, making rebellions self-reinforcing in isolated regions. You can inspect each subject's connectivity score and its loyalty contribution in the Manage Subjects panel, alongside connection type, lane border, sea route, or none. So yeah, this makes sense, man. Once again, you're playing, I don't know, France. Obviously, all of these subjects are in the region of France. You border most all of them, right? But for example, you're playing, I don't know, let me think of someone disconnected. Like, you're playing the Ottomans, and you've conquered the entire Balkans and Anatolia and stuff like that, and you're fighting Hungary. And Hungary's allied to Bohemia, right? And Bohemia has a bunch of subjects. And then you're like, well, I'm gonna push into Bohemia sooner or later. Why not steal Moravia or something like that? So you snatch, even with mega aggressive expansion, just generalizing here, Moravia from Bohemia while you're fighting Hungary. And then, you're the Ottomans here, then you got Hungary here, and then you got your boy Moravia right here, completely disconnected from you. Obviously, this is kind of a deterrent to things like that, to taking like completely disconnected subjects in far off lands, which I do feel is a good change. I feel like, your subjects should be around you and stuff like that. And yeah, a good change. Really, you guys are not going to notice an impact on guys that are your subjects that you actually share a land border with, which is most subjects, or even, you can sea border them and stuff like that. But on super, super disconnected subjects, I feel like there is going to be a discrepancy. For example, you pop a subject in Benevento or whatever. If you're playing as the Pope, Benevento is that one tiny little province in Naples or whatever. If that still exists, I don't even know if it's there, but yeah, something like that. Moving on to a little bit about subject loyalty. Basically, this says that high trust between the subject and the overlord impacts, subject loyalty, which of course makes sense. But also, interestingly, the strength of an independence movement now reduces subject loyalty, reflecting the destabilizing effect of strong internal forces that may pull the subject away from the overlord's orbit. So yeah, the more guys you bring into your independence movement, obviously the more disloyal you're gonna be as the subject. But I wonder if they changed around anything on the independence movement, because it's too easy to get supporters to support your independence, right? When playing as a subject and you want to break free. I don't feel like it should be as hard as it was in EU4 in certain cases, but I don't either feel like you should be able to get the support of, I don't know, the Mamluks when you're playing as Wales and trying to break free from England. It should be like rivals, countries around you, right? So, you shouldn't be able to get anyone that you have a diplomatic reach to, right? You can get like all of Europe into an independence war if you want to at this point. I feel like it should be, close-ish countries that don't like that guy that much. But yeah, still not as hard as EU4 though. I don't want it to be as hard as EU4. Now, an interesting change here about the subject culture regarding the conquest meta. So subjects now suffer penalties to cultural assimilation and religion converting speed, reflecting the reduced administrative capacity and political autonomy that comes with being under an overlord's authority. Additionally, and this is very important for some of your guys' playstyles out there, an overlord must wait 10 years after a subject is created before they can enforce their own culture or religion upon it, preventing the exploitation of a rapidly cycling through a freshly created subjects to turbocharge conversions. Yeah, makes sense, man. I was never a fan of that meta. I personally don't enforce cultures on the subjects at all. If I do it, I want it to be from a roleplay perspective where they do actually convert it instead of just making it cheaper to annex, right? Whereas basically, you create a subject, wait a little bit till time passes till you can annex them, then enforce start annexing, which, this waiting of 10 years after they're created is still the same 10-year waiting to annex them. So, if you're forcing culture on them and you actually want them to convert the culture, this is going to be a change since you're going to have to wait longer. But if you're just forcing culture in order to annex them quicker, this won't really be that much of a change. Of course, unless they flip back and they become disloyal. So it's still a good change, though. It's still a good change. Will it get rid of that meta? I don't know if it'll get rid of it, but it'll definitely reduce it. And now following along with some good changes about annexing subjects, which I quite like, annexation costs have been reworked in 1.2 to better reflect the complexity of integrating a subject state. The old system charged a flat rate per location, which made annexing large subjects prohibitively expensive, regardless of how well integrated they already were. The new formula uses a flat base cost plus a lower per location rate, significantly reducing the penalty for annexing sprawling but loyal subjects. Crucially, both the cost and the speed of annexation now scale with subject loyalty. The more loyal your subject is, the cheaper and faster the process becomes, which I like this change. This creates a natural reward loop. Investing in your subjects through policies and privileges pays off directly when you decide to integrate them. Conversely, trying to force annex a resentful subject remains costly and slow, reflecting the real administrative friction of absorbing unwilling territory. The combined effect is that patient overlords who cultivate loyalty will find annexation a smooth and affordable transition, while impatient rulers who neglect their subjects will face a significantly steeper bill. Not much of a change for me. I'm the patient overlord, but I didn't notice a change here on on the cost of rural versus urban settlements like villages, towns, and cities and stuff like that. I feel like though that's a change for the hyper urbanization that happens in EU5, right? You create a subject, right? And let's say I was playing recently in India, and in India, the provinces are actually quite large. They got like 12, 13, 14 locations in them. The provinces are way too big. And then you got this subject you've been keeping around for a pretty long time. Let's say you've had them for 50, 60 years. But they're a one province subject, sure, but they got 15 locations. Out of those 15 locations, they made 10 of them cities. So now this one location guy takes freaking 500 or 600, whatever the cost is here per, to annex. So yeah, I feel like though that's not a change for this, that would be just a temporary fix to bring this down. The cost of, the additive cost of cities and towns is just a temporary fix as opposed to a solution to the hyper urbanization. But yeah, good change all around. Literally just a minor thing right here. You can move subjects as capitals. And then some nice miscellaneous UI improvements while holding control when clicking an advance in the research tree. You guys have asked for this since the start. It will now immediately insert it along with any missing prerequisites into a research queue directly after your current project, removing the need to manually navigate and queue each prerequisite one by one. So basically it's prioritizing, control click, you put that at the toppest top that it can get. So very nice change. This feature respects your existing queue by inserting rather than replacing, so your broader research plan stays intact while the prioritized advance and its prerequisites are handled efficiently. It's a quality of life improvement that rewards players who think ahead about the technology path without punishing them with tedious queue management. Yeah, excellent. And this is also a very nice quality of life change, man. When looking at the rival and diplomacy section, we got this little bit right here, basically comparing, us to them and stuff like that. Army size, navy size, levy size, income, population, and all of that, which is very nice. This is a really, really nice change. I like that a lot. Additionally, now rivers are rendered as visible overlays on the raw materials, development, food, and control map modes, providing crucial geographic context that was previously absent when analyzing these layers. Since rivers act as natural barriers, supply line modifiers, and provincial boundaries, having them visible while evaluating development spread, food access, or control lets you immediately understand why certain patterns exist on the map. A cluster of underdeveloped provinces or a gap in control coverage often makes far more sense once you can see the river network fragmenting the region, and this change makes that relationship legible without switching back to the default map mode. It's a small addition that significantly improves how readable and actionable these map modes are during mid and late game planning. I agree. However, I hope that rivers are literally also added on the roads map mode, just like they are on my mod, the Better Road Builder mod. Because, I feel like rivers are most important, honestly, for roads, dude, because sure, you can spam up roads and stuff like that, but if you do, let's say, there is a river right here, but let's say you build, your capital is here, and, you want to build a road to here, but the river is already there. So why build a road to there? Obviously, you're still going to do it because you're a min-maxer, but also, to see the bridges and stuff like that. So yeah, I literally want them to be present just like it is on the Better Road Builder mod, but I have no problem. I already use the mod, so yeah, not that much of a problem, though it would be very nice to have it in the base game. And there we go. We've reached the bottom of this dev diary, ladies and gentlemen, a pretty beefy one. That's why I decided to skip a lot of these things, but basically they're just going into, in-depth explanations about the stuff we already talked about. As always, you can head on to the Paradox forums and read these things yourself. But yeah, a very beefy dev diary, man. I guess if it's dropping May 6th, how many more dev diaries does that mean we have? So yeah, it's literally just one more dev diary next Wednesday, I guess, unless they decide to cram in some extra ones, and then maybe one on the 6th on the release day with like full patch notes and stuff like that, which would be awesome. But since this was just about the 1.2 patch, maybe there'll be like a finishing Fate of the Phoenix one next week, and then on release 1.2 one, something like that. But yeah, like I said in the beginning of the video, man, I did expect 1.2 to drop later this month or beginning of June, but hey, if it's ready, it's ready, and I'm excited to dive into it, man, because there's literally not a change that I haven't liked so far about everything that's coming in 1.2 and Fate of the Phoenix. Obviously, we're going to be doing a video on May the 6th, the day that it drops. Let me know what you guys want to see. We are going to be coming back to guides once this update drops. We will actually be making guides. Let me know what's the first guide you want to see. Probably Byzantium, right? Even though I'm assuming every other creator will do Byzantium as well. Why not? It literally doesn't matter. So yeah, let me know what you want to see. Let me know about your thoughts on this latest dev diary, all around on the 1.2 patch, all around on the Fate of the Phoenix DLC, and are you excited to dive into EU5 1.2? I know I am. And just to give you guys a heads up, not hiding anything, as of today, this video dropping, as you're watching it right now, I do not have early access to 1.2. I am not playing it. However, if I do get to play it early and stuff like that, obviously I will let you guys know. And I might even do maybe you guys don't want to see a guide on the 6th. Maybe you guys want to see if I do get to play this patch early. I don't know yet. Do you want to see my thoughts on what I've actually experienced as I've played it? Or do you want to see an actual guide or something like that? Or maybe it won't be on the 6th. Maybe it will be on the 7th. Who knows? But yeah, let me know about everything we talked about today, man. Let me know what you guys think about the release. Are you excited? Are you not? Leave a like if you haven't already. It really does help out a lot. Subscribe for more content like this if you haven't already. What are you thinking? But yeah, enough yapping. Let me get lunch. That's it for me for now. See you next time.